9 online tools to create customer avatars or buyer personas that'll help you sell more. At the root of making more sales for any business or any marketer is really understanding our customer. We need to be very clear on exactly who our target prospect is and who our target customer is. And yet, unfortunately, many entrepreneurs don't have a clear idea of who they're actually marketing to, or they get confused because when they start to think about it, they realize there isn't just one main type of customer they serve. There might be multiple different types of customers, so they become confused and overwhelmed by the idea of creating an avatar, thinking it needs to be just one person. First off, the important thing to recognize is that we can have multiple subsets of customers inside of our business. So we may have a product or service that applies to 3 or 4 different types of customer avatars. That's okay. There's no hard and fast rule saying that we can only have one. We can create as many avatars as we have unique customer types. And so that problem should be out of the way. It doesn't stop the fact, though, that we need to have a very clear idea of each and every one of those in order to be able to market to them. And then as we're creating our marketing, as we're creating our content, as we're creating our advertising and our offers, we keep them in mind throughout the entire process so we know that we're talking to the person that we most likely want to reach and that will most likely be able to benefit from our products and services. So let's talk about some awesome online tools that we can use to create a really clear customer avatar or buyer persona so we can guide all of our marketing, all of our advertising, all of our content creation, products and offers so we can attract and convert our ideal customers. Now, before we jump into all the tools, it's important to know exactly what should be included in an avatar for it to be effective. Part of the confusion comes from the fact of I'm not really sure what information I'm supposed to have. I might be able to get simple demographics or something, but at what level of detail should I go to? Well, the answer to that is as deep as you possibly can. The more information that we have about a potential prospect or customer, the better off we're going to be able to market to them. If we think of this just in everyday terms, think about people in your own life. If they're family members or very close friends, you probably know a lot about them. Intimate details that a lot of other people don't know. You know what keeps them up at night. You know what their fears are. You know what their attitudes and opinions are about various things. When they're customers or they're people that we don't know that well, or even acquaintances in our lives, we may know them in one certain context, but we don't have a full understanding of who they are as a person. So our goal as a business, our goal as an entrepreneur is to get to that level of understanding with our target customer so we get that level of detail and we have the ability to push all the buttons we need to help them get the help, the services, the products that they need that we offer that will help them solve their problems and reach their goals. So that said, at a minimum, what we really need to know to even start is we have to know demographics. We've got to know the age, the gender, the income, the education, occupation, marital status, those kinds of things. Thankfully, that information is relatively easy to find about any group of people because a lot of tools already track that stuff automatically. The second set is a little bit harder, and those are the psychographics. We need to know their values, their interests, lifestyle, personality, opinions, and attitudes. And ultimately, we need to know their pain points and their fears and their goals and motivations. So we can go a lot deeper than this also, but if we have that at least as a starting point, we're going to be able to create marketing. We're going to be able to create avatars that help us with our marketing, advertising, promotions, and everything else that will absolutely make our efforts more effective and lower cost. So I'm going to cover how to get into a real deep customer avatar on another episode. But for right now, let's just start with those pieces of information. And let's talk about some tools that can help us get those and create avatars themselves. The first one is the Customer Avatar Creator. Now, this is a free online tool. You can just do a search for it. And it guides you through a 5-step process to create a detailed customer avatar. Now, one word of warning or note about that. it's going to ask you questions about some of these other factors. So if we haven't already done the demographic research, if we don't already know some of these other things, we're going to be hard pressed to be able to use it. But once we have that, it'll create an actual full customer avatar for us. So that's one to put in the back pocket for the moment while we go through the other ones. The second one is Google Analytics. Now, Google Analytics, the amazing thing about this is it's an absolutely free tool. So we don't need to pay to be able to get good analytics. If we have any websites, if we have any storefronts, if we have anything online that we're running and we don't have Google Analytics attached to it, we 100% need to get that going right away, because it will track tons of information about our audience, about their behaviors, about what they do on the site, and we'll be able to get demographics as well. So it'll provide us with demographic information. It'll give us things like age, gender, location of all of our website visitors. And it will also give us some of their behavioral things as well, like what they do on the website, where they search, how far they go, what they click on, how far they scroll, things like that, what actions they take. So we can get all that information from just an absolutely free tool in Google Analytics. The downside to it is it really only kind of works for stuff that we own. So if they aren't already prospects and customers that we're getting going, then there's limited use for that, because we aren't going to be able to gather data about outside prospects and customers that aren't ours yet. The third tool that we can use is customer surveys. Now, there's nothing better as a starting point for any sort of avatar creation or understanding our ideal customer than starting with our actual customer. So if we have any customers, if our business is already up and running, we have prospects in our funnel, we have customers, we have some people that have actually paid us money for our products and services, those people are invaluable and oftentimes overlooked. As an entrepreneur or a business owner, we think, well, they already bought from us, we don't need to worry about them. We need to have the exact opposite idea about that. We want to dig in, we want to get to know them better, because the better we know them, the better we can figure out what motivated them to buy from us, all the other information that we're looking for. And because if they like our product or service, they already have an affinity for us, they're much more likely to be willing to share, especially if we incentivize them a little bit. So surveying our own existing customer base, even if it's small, even if we only have 20 or 30 or 50 customers, doesn't matter, that's fine. It will give us the start of what we're looking for. The one thing to understand about a customer avatar anyway is it's not a set and forget type situation. We aren't looking to make one master avatar that then we're going to, pin on the wall and never look at it again. It's an evolving, breathing, living thing that ultimately will change and morph and evolve over time, just the same way people do. So our customer base may change, we may add our avatars, we may lose some avatars. So we want to create as many unique avatars for as many customer types as we have, but at the same time, we also want to always be going back and evaluating, do these things still scan? If, our one particular avatar now doesn't seem to be buying as much from us as all the other ones, and all the ads we're running to that one particular group aren't converting, we need to go back and look at that. Maybe something has changed. Maybe something has shifted and we aren't aware of it. So for customer surveys, we can use tools like SurveyMonkey or even Google Forms, and we could create simple surveys that help gather direct feedback from customers. Now, a couple of important points about this. One, most people are a little averse anyway because they're busy to doing surveys. It's not that they don't want to do it, but if it requires them a lot of effort, you're less likely to get a lot of responses. So we want to make it without leading their responses. We don't want to say, you believe in this, right? And say yes or no, because we're leading them to the answer. We want to make sure we're actively asking objective questions that they can answer in multiple different ways, but we want to make the answering as simple as possible. We can put in a short answer or a long answer where they need to type it out as maybe the last question if we make it optional. But if they have to type things out to do the survey, we're not likely to get very many responses. We're far better off to ask a bunch of multiple choice or true-false questions and gather data from that. We can always evolve the survey if that's not working. If we're getting a lot of responses, we can always dig in and try to make one that's a little bit more in depth. But oftentimes, if we ask for long-winded answers, we aren't going to get a lot of responses. So that's one thing. Another thing is it's a very valuable and useful thing to offer some sort of reward for doing it. We'd like to believe that just the goodwill of liking us as someone who they bought a product from and they're excited about would be enough. And for some people it will. But if we offer a coupon or we offer a discount or we offer a raffle for a gift card for one person or 5 people that fill out the survey, we're much more likely to get a lot more responses. People like the gamification. They like to get rewards. And if they don't mind, but they just aren't going to take the time to do it, that might be the incentive we need to push them over the hump. And the critical point to understand about this is how important this data is to creating a customer avatar and how important that avatar is to our marketing, advertising, overall sales ability. And so it's worth it to give away $100 or $200 in gift cards if we can get enough survey responses to be able to target our marketing. It's going to save us 1,000 times that over the course of the span of our business. So that's a really valuable tool. Another really valuable tool that's ultimately free is social media analytics. One of the greatest things about the social media platforms is that they track tons of analytics. And so platforms like Facebook Insights, Instagram Insights, they're going to give us lots of information. And so they're going to be able to offer to us more than just demographics. They're going to be able to give us behavioral details and interests of our audience because they're tracking the behaviors. They're all behavioral search engines. Basically, the idea is what they want to do is get people to behave in a certain way to keep them on the platform. So they're constantly tracking what resonates with people. What things are they clicking on? What things are they engaging with? What things are they ignoring, which is equally important. And so they start to build this composite profile of each of those people. Now, obviously, if we have a large social media following and we look at our own analytics, that's a really great way to do it because it makes it really easy. We're going to be able to see all of this different information. We may even be able to parse that and figure out who in that group are our actual customers, and then figure out based on that what our customer avatar is. But let's say, for example, we don't have a big following yet. Then what do? Well, the great thing about it is you can still get this data about general audiences and various niches anyway. You can do searches by niche, you can do searches by other behaviors, and you can see what other things are connected to that. You can also follow around people that are connected to your account, see who else they're following, go to those accounts and check out what they are looking at as well. Because if you're seeing the kind of content, if you're seeing the kind of advertising, if you're seeing the kind of engagement from various people on various things, we're going to be able to develop our own ideas about behavioral details and interests. And that is very important to complement that piece of the demographics. So this can be done with an automated way if we have those access to those simple reports, or we might need to do a little roll up the sleeves research where we start trolling around a little bit online and following accounts and taking a look and seeing who's engaging with what their interests are and things like that. As we start to build an audience, it becomes easier and easier to get the demographics of that audience and to figure out exactly what it is they're doing, what they're interested in, what their behaviors are. So we start to shed a little bit more light and bring into focus a little bit more what we're doing in terms of our audience with our customer avatar. The fifth tool, or another tool that we can use, is AI-powered tools. So this is sort of not one tool, but really a collection of tools. So there are great things out there that we can learn just from AI. Now, I wouldn't rely on this solely because sometimes the information is dated, sometimes the information is inaccurate, but it's definitely good as a starting point. We can use things like ChatGPT or Perplexity or whatever, and we can go in there and type in various things like what are the common behaviors for and interests for people that are dog lovers or whatever. And it will go and it will analyze and figure out what connected behaviors there are to those. Now, again, this may not be 100% accurate, but we can at least start to put that together, and then we can vet that and verify it with our own independent research. If it says, well, everybody who seems to love dogs is also, environmentally friendly and, loves XYZ company, well, we can go and check that because we can see if the groups they belong to are the same, the accounts they follow are the same, and all of those other kinds of things. And at very worst, we can at least test those premises because we can try various content in our own profiles and see who resonates with it. One of the great things about the social media tools is that if we don't have a large audience ourselves, we can still boost our posts. So if we put something out there and we only have 20 followers, we aren't going to get a lot of data about engagement on that particular post. But for like $5 or whatever, you can boost it and it will be shown to a bunch of other people that are likely to be interested. And we can see if we try that over a variety of different posts that we've got, which ones are resonating, which ones are getting the traction and engagement. And that can also help us zero in on exactly who that customer avatar is and what we're trying to create there. The other thing that is very valuable along this same line is that ChatGPT and other AI tools can help us create anti-avatars. So that way they can also tell us who are opposed to the kinds of things we're looking for or who are not interested. So we know what audiences and what people groups to actually avoid in terms of the marketing and the things that we're trying to do, so we can save money and not waste it on marketing aspects or groups that are never going to convert for us. Another thing that we can use as a tool is customer interviews. So we talked about surveys, and surveys are one thing, but they're general, they're low level, and we're not going to be able to get the same detail of information. Because again, as I mentioned, if we ask too many questions that require too many responses, they're going to tune out. With an interview, it's a little bit different. In this, we would reach out to a customer and we would say, hey, listen, we really value you as a customer. And we would love it if we could jump on the phone with you for a few minutes and ask you a couple of questions about your experience with our product, about, things like that. I wouldn't tell them specifically up front that it's an interview. That turns people off and it scares them a little bit. But we can tell them that we just want to get their feedback on their use of our product and service. And we can weave in a couple of other questions about things like, what is it that caused you to be interested in the product in the first place? What is it that when you saw our offer in particular caused you to buy that instead of the competitors? Things like that. That will sort of give us answers to the test about the motivations, other behavioral things. It'll start to get under that layer where we start to see the fears, the concerns, the goals, and all of those other kinds of things. And we can read between the lines and figure that out. We can't ask somebody directly, hey, what are your biggest goals? What are your biggest fears? People, if we don't know them, are not going to answer those questions in a way that is useful for us. However, we can ask other questions that will let us sort of infer that information and still gain a better perspective about who our avatar is. And those can be in depth because if we've got them and we're talking, it's a conversation. So they tend to be more candid because they aren't prepared in terms of prepping a response or thinking it through. And also it's quicker and easier to just talk than it is to write out answers. Another thing that we can use is staff surveys. If we have any outsourcers, if we have any team members, if we have any partners that we work with, or anyone else who works with our audience and our customers, they are very valuable sources of information because oftentimes if we are the entrepreneur or the business owner, we may not be as involved in the day-to-day with every single individual customer interaction. But people that work in our organization do. And so they are going to be able to give us unfiltered information about their perspectives from, what a customer sees, what they care about, what they value, and what they don't. And so customer support is a great resource for this. Account managers, anybody in the sales department, whatever, all of those people are going to have great insights into what our customers are all about. Another thing that we can do is just a flat out platform analysis. So we can research relevant forums, social media groups. We can get involved in groups that are relevant to our niche. We can do a search online for our niche and forums and join them. Any kind of online community where that exists and our target audience interacts, we can get in there and just pay attention to the threads, pay attention to the conversations, the questions, the complaints, the remarks, the wishes, the goals. People will share this stuff in a community where they feel like they're valued and that they're safe. And so that allows us to sort of be a fly on the wall and figure out what it is that they really want. They might complain about certain vendors or products, maybe even our own, and what they wish it had and all those other things. So there's a lot of information that can be gathered there as well. And the last tool is Niche Customer Avatar Generator. And it's niche with 3 S's on the end, believe it or not. It's a customer avatar generator, and it's an AI-powered tool that actually generates customer avatars based on the input that we give it about the audience and their goals. So again, we have to have some baseline information. It's not magic. We can't just go in and say, make me an avatar for my customer. It's not going to know that. It's going to ask us some questions, but it's going to create a pretty detailed avatar, and it's going to allow us to build it out in a way that at least we can use it as a starting point. And again, obviously we're going to need to continually evolve it, but it's a great place to get started to really understand our market. So these tools can help gather and analyze data to create comprehensive customer avatars. And they can include everything from demographic information, psychographics, pain points, goals, preferred information sources, all that kind of stuff. The key is to use a combination of the tools and methods, right? It's not just one thing. So we can build as well-rounded an understanding of our ideal customer as possible. So the takeaway here is the best way to make more sales with the lowest marketing cost and time is to start with a clear understanding of who our ideal customer is so we can target them directly and maximize our lead generation and conversion. Creating customer avatars and buyer personas are the best way to gain that clarity, and once we have a clear idea of who we're targeting, it makes content creation, advertising, marketing, and promotion more effective, more efficient, and lower cost, so we can spend less and we can sell more.